In this video, I start off with the strongest weapon in the game, the Zenith. Now I know what you're thinking it's way too powerful, but this Zenith has been modified where I have to level it up by doing damage and gaining experience. With the experience I gain using this weapon, I have to individually upgrade the attack, the critical chance, the attack speed, penetration, along with additional projectiles. How difficult will this mod actually be, and how far will I get into this game? Keep watching and find out. The first thing that I ended up doing in this world is I headed right. I wanted to find enemies that I could upgrade my Zenith with. The first thing that I decided to upgrade with my Zenith is the attack speed, as I thought that would be the quickest way to upgrade my Zenith. I eventually came across this cave, which I thought was amazing. This meant I could find life crystals and other loot that could benefit me in the game. I know I do have the Zenith, the most powerful sword in the game, and it is upgradable, but that doesn't mean I don't need things like armor and health. These will all be very helpful through this run. This right here, I had to speed it up because it took so long to kill these slimes, I didn't even realize when I was actually playing. Now, I may have the most powerful weapon in the game, but this is what makes this mod challenging. It isn't the most powerful to start, and it has the power of a wooden sword. After a while of grinding out enemies in the caves, I got a little bit bored, so I decided to head to the jungle. This is actually where I encountered my first heart crystal. A couple hours go by and I eventually upgrade my Zenith to almost automatically swinging. This is around level 14 to level 15. I also got some gold armor, and I started making an arena. I wanted to fight the Eye of Cthulhu. I can now start upgrading my damage, and if I upgrade my damage, I'm going to go through the rest of the game so easily. After successfully building an arena, I was just waiting for it to be fully turned night now. All I wanted to do at this point was just fight the Eye, and then I could move on to other bosses. Just before I went to go fight the Eye, I remembered I needed more health, so I went back down to the caves to go find some more life crystals. I ended up coming across this mushroom biome, and I ended up finding another life crystal. Now that I was satisfied with my health and my gear, I decided it was time to take on the Eye. This fight was dramatically easy. I knew what I was doing when I came to upgrading my Zenith. But here, I'm just going to let it play out. When I went to go collect this loot, I realized I made a huge mistake. There wasn't a goodie bag. I realized I hadn't even been playing this world on expert mode, and I was relying on getting a Shield of Cthulhu. I decided to carry on the run though, as I spent way too many hours on this world just to give it up now. Right after, I set my eyes on my next target, and that is Skeletron. Unlocking the dungeon would be huge in this run, as there are so many enemies with such high health. I could do so much damage. Eventually, I find my dungeon. It's on the left side of the world, but I thought this dungeon was really interesting, as it has had the longest staircase leading up to it that I had ever seen. But once I actually got here, I realized Skeletron is not an easy boss, and I only have gold armor. If anything, I could do at least some shadow armor. So that was my next goal. I needed to get shadow, and the only way to get shadow scales was to go fight the Eater of Worlds. But before I did that, I just wanted to make sure I had enough Demonite, and I wanted to test out my Zenith just one more time before I go challenge the Eater of Worlds. So I decided to fight the Eye of Cthulhu just one more time. And what I want to say before this fight is this was incredibly easy. Now that I was satisfied with the level of gear that I had, and that I had enough Demonite for shadow armor the second I beat the Eater of Worlds, I headed straight off to the Corruption just so I could go fight this thing right now. I was not wasting any time. I wanted to fight it this second. And here I break the first orb, the second orb, and I had to do a little bit of tactical demolition, but here we go. Now I must say this fight was also very easy, but I guess the Eater of Worlds has always been an easy boss for me, especially with a weapon like the Zenith, even though it's not at full power, so this was actually a very short fight. After beating the Eater of Worlds, I knew all I had to do now was just craft up some shadow armor and head off to the dungeon to go fight Skeletron. This second I made it to the dungeon, the first thing on my mind was how am I actually going to beat this thing? So I started working on an arena as I started thinking up a plan on how I'm going to beat Skeletron. The strategy I ended up coming up with was to take down his hands first and then just go for the head. Simple but smart. It should work and should be perfectly fine. It turns night and without hesitation I go on and I spawn Skeletron. This fight was pretty easy. I didn't really take too much damage during this fight. I just followed the strategy that I decided on and went for the hands first and then the head. And just like that, Skeletron falls. This sets my sights on my next target, the Wall of Flesh. So I instantly start heading down to hell and looking for a guide voodoo doll. My only strategy going into this fight was just to have a long platform like everybody else does in this game. It is honestly the best strategy for fighting the wall. Having a long platform just so you don't fall into lava is perfect. After what felt like an hour of searching, I finally found the voodoo demon and got myself a guide voodoo doll. And now without hesitation, I go straight to spawning this Wall of Flesh. And I will say, this was the shortest time I've ever had fighting it. Now that all of the hungries were finally down, the wall just started getting melted. As you can see, the Wall of Flesh was literally not even a problem. I barely even took damage during this fight. Alright, that is the end of today's video, and thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, please let me know by telling me who your favourite boss in Terraria is. Also, don't forget to join my Discord. The link is in the About Me on my YouTube channel. And while you're there, you might as well subscribe.